Yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
January 11, 2002, Westmere, New York. At Christ the King School, when Courtney Caimano interviewing Paul Caimano. He was a Vietnam veteran and served in the U.S. Navy.
Okay, not yet.
And Courtney Caimano, January 11, 2002, at Christ the King School in Dublin, New York. I'm interviewing Paul Caimano, who is a Vietnam veteran for the U.S. Navy. What were your circumstances for enlistment?
Well, in 1968, I was attending Siena College and not doing as well as I should have done. Obviously, my educational genes didn't pass on you, it must be from your mother. So I had a choice of either going in the Army or being drafted or maybe enlisting in another service, and I decided that I would enlist in the Navy.
So what units, when you were enlisted, what units or ships were you assigned to?
When I first went in after boot camp, I went to electronics school. After graduating from electronics school, I was on an aircraft carrier, the USS Independence, for about a year. Then I went to a squadron, reconnaissance squadron, basically spy planes. I went to Vietnam. I was in Saigon and Da Nang, Vietnam. And then when I was done with that tour, I went back to the USS Independence and was honorably discharged in 1972.
So, what wars or locations were you in those times?
When I was in the Independence, the old saying is join the Navy and see the world. I got a chance to see a lot of the world. I saw England and Scotland, Spain, Italy, Greece, Cuba, Puerto Rico when I was on the ship, and when I was in Vietnam, I got to see Vietnam and the Philippines.
Now, when you were in Vietnam or on the USS Independence, what did you have to do?
I was an electronic technician. I maintained and repaired any number of types of electronics equipment, radios and radio.
Now, when you were in Vietnam, did you have any combat service?
Yes, I did. Just about everybody in Vietnam had combat service. I was an air crewman, so every second or third night I would get on the airplane along with 18 other people, and we fly north off the coast of North Vietnam and do the things that we do in the plane, and then fly back. I was shot at personally, but the plane was shot at a lot.
Okay, well, when were you first under fire?
First under fire the first night. The first night we took off and we flew off the coast of North Vietnam. We always had a fighter escort because I flew a EC-121, which was a Super Constellation 4-propeller plane, slow and low, so we always had to have a fighter next to us just in case somebody came to get us.
Okay, and how did you feel when you were in combat?
Well, I didn't like being shot at, but I didn't think it was anything personal because they were shooting at the plane. They weren't shooting at Paul Caimano.
Okay. Now, when you were in combat, did you see any injuries or wounds or illnesses?
Some, but I saw more injuries when I was on the Independence, just from everyday flight operations. People were hurt all the time. Planes taking off and landing on an aircraft carrier is a dangerous situation.
Now, were you ever captured?
No. Yeah, it was very good.
Okay, well, what was your daily life like when you were not in combat or on the Independence?
When I was on the Independence, daily life was pretty much normal. You get up about 6 in the morning, have breakfast, you work your morning repairing electronic gear, checking radars, checking radios, have lunch, and do the same thing in the afternoon, about 5 or 6 o'clock. At night, your time was free. You could watch TV, you could go to the movies, you could do a lot of things, play football and like that, as long as there were no planes flying.
Now, did your equipment work well when you used it?
Pretty much, but if it didn't, our job was to fix it, and fix it any way we could with whatever we had at hand.
How was it compared to your enemies?
I don't know. I think it was more modern than our enemies, but sometimes they use their equipment they used more primitive equipment better than we did at times. But overall, I'd say we had the best that was available at the time.
Now, when on your unit or ship, how was it like? Like, what was it like
What was it
on
like?
your ship or?
It was on the Independence. There was 5,000 guys on an aircraft carrier. It was pretty cramped quarters. We had a berthing area where 95 to 100 men in a unit would sleep, and there'd be racks. Somebody slept on the floor, just above the floor, somebody in the middle, and somebody on top, and that was on both sides. In Vietnam, we slept in barracks. It was pretty much like a primitive hotel, with beds and lockers.
Okay, and how were your officers?
Officers were pretty good. Some of them were great, some of them were fair, but overall I would say they were good. They might follow the rules.
Did you receive any decorations or medals?
Received aircrew wings, which maybe you had to receive your aircrew wings to be an air crewman, to fly on the Super Constellations, to fly on the constant planes. I also received the Air Medal and Commendation, Vietnam Commendation, Vietnam Service, National Unit Commendation. Nothing fancy.
When you were either in combat or on USS Independence, what was most interesting or inspiring to you?
Most interesting, I think, was on a NATO cruise. We were up by the Arctic Circle, right by the Independence, and we saw the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis, and that was pretty amazing to watch that at the Arctic Circle. I remember one time also being in Spain, and it was the first time that President Nixon went to China. So I was sitting in a restaurant in Spain watching Spanish television, somebody speaking in Spanish, trying to explain what Richard Nixon was doing in China. So I thought that was interesting. And living through going to Vietnam and making it back without any holes in it.
Well, what person or people did you remember best in your service and why?
There's a couple. Lieutenant Commander Dwayne Whitley. He was the electronics officer on the Independence. He used to just sit at his desk with his feet up and his hat over his eyes, his hands behind his head like this, and everybody be running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And he'd say, "Come on, what's the problem?" And I say, "Well, this radio's down, that radar's down," and he would say, "Fix it." And that's about as excited as he used to get. I liked him for that. There's Pete Puglielli from Long Island. He was a good friend of mine. Another friend, Steve Swolchek. He and I played guitar together on the Independence. And Don Meyer, who was with me on the Independence and also went to Vietnam with me. And, he was a funny guy. He made Vietnam better.
Well, were there any experiences that left the greatest impression on you?
I think going to all the places that I got to see. One of the things that made a great impression on me wasn't a good impression. Not that it was a bad impression, but it was a bad situation. Was a person that I was shore patrol with. When we were on the Independence, we take turns being the shore patrol when we were in the port. And his name was Arthur Clinton Wigglesworth, and he was my shore patrol partner. And we were out to sea one night, and I heard a commotion up on the flight deck. When you hear the plane start, they just sound like jets do normally, but this sounded like someone was throwing into the engine. And I ended up that it was Arthur Clinton Wigglesworth. He got too close to the intake, and he's no longer with us.
Well, did you perform any unusual services or duties?
Nothing unusual. I did what we had to do. I was an electronics technician. I worked on electronics gear. Played guitar a lot when on my off time. Anything different that other people were doing when they were sick.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Okay. A couple of things here. One thing.
What impact did your military service have on the rest of your life?
Military service had a great impact on the rest of my life. First of all, it made me realize how important staying in school was, because if I stayed in school, I probably would have been in the military service. No, it had an impact because I realized that I can do things. I can do things that I didn't think I could do. It made me realize other people can do things they don't think they could do when they really need to do it. For example, if they're in a combat or if they're in a dangerous situation, like being on an aircraft carrier. We used to work 18-hour days. It gave me an appreciation for sleep. And it also made me realize that the people that are fighting now are doing an important thing. I've always appreciated the Navy. I appreciate veterans. I appreciate the service. And I don't know. It just, I look back on my 4 years in the Navy as a good time, not a bad time. You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Okay.